Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service. On the hazardous weather graphic today, we've got winter weather advisories out for the greater Ambler area there in the Kobuk Valley, southward to Galena, but not into the Kuskokwim Valley, so this advisory is north of the McGrath-Nikolai area. Looking for this to remain out through tomorrow afternoon, and 4 to 8 inches of snow, additional snow possible through this area until that time, and visibilities be reduced, but really not a whole lot of wind with that. Could be a little breezy and could get reduced to a half mile or less at times. Otherwise, that's it for the advisories there. The winter weather advisory that was out for Juneau ends at 4 p.m. today, and they already picked up their 4 to 6 inches, and mostly up toward White Pass before it started mixing with rain this afternoon. And on the satellite imagery, there's another surges of moisture continue to roll northwestward here across the panhandle with low pressure west-southwest of the Queen Charlottes, and that flow, of course, milder, now rain across all of the panhandle and actually even warming into northwest Canada there. Here's the upper level trough, or the clouds associated with the upper level trough. That's responsible for the snow and the snow advisories here over the west central interior, with clouds all the way up to the Arctic coast. A little bit of a break here behind that system, but next cloud shield already pushing northeastward here. That brought about a half inch of rain to the central Aleutians as that moved by. Just a few hundredths reported at Unalaska, or it started raining a little bit later there, but it'll get more precipitation for St. Paul, St. George there into the Dutch Harbor area, spreading into the Alaska Peninsula overnight tonight. Otherwise, we got a few breaks here over the eastern interior this afternoon, Northway up to possibly Eagle, and also here for the Prince William Sound area, not too bad. And southern Cook Inlet, couple inches of snow falling on the southern Kenai Peninsula, and otherwise about a third of an inch of snow, or a third of an inch of liquid precipitation pushing in toward the southeast portion of the Copper River Basin. And as we advance this again, this area cloudiness right through here is going to continue to advance northwestward and link up with this zone here that's lifting northward. And so we're expecting another round of snow to come through Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin, south central Alaska overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. And of course, snow will continue here over the west central interior and be more scattered in nature as you head over toward the border. And then for the analysis today, we've got 995 millibar low, really not that strong of a system out here, but again, about a half inch of rain falling with it, and not much of a wind producer. Snow showers over the northern Bering, and snow showers here from the western Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. Become a little more extensive here over the western interior, and then kind of narrows and becomes more intermittent here across Bristol Bay. And the scattered snow showers south central Alaska today over toward the Alaska Range, and then the rain here spreading northward into the White Pass area and back along the North Gulf Coast. We'll see for tonight mixed rain and snow likely for the coastal areas, and then snow advancing westward into northern Cook Inlet, Matanuska Valley, possibly Susitna Valley, and northward across the Talkeetnas into the Copper River Basin. Fair up over the northeast. A trough keeps it unsettled with the winter weather advisories here for the west central interior, and this system slowly moving northeastward, so it looks wet for the Alaska Peninsula, back out toward the eastern Aleutians. Snowfall levels falling to sea level out over the western Aleutians, so numerous snow showers out toward Amchitka on over to Chimay-Attu. And for tomorrow, this system slowly moving eastward here. Again, not all that strong of a system at all, so winds really no factor at all. And then the upper level trough keeps the snow falling over the west and northwest part of the state, breaks here into the central interior. Scattered rain and snow showers up along the North Gulf Coast. Could be a little bit more scattered nature out along the coast there in the Kenai Peninsula. Improving over the Panhandle. Outlook for Wednesday looks like this. Unsettled for the southeast coast. Best chance of seeing any sunshine looks like it'll be over Prince of Wales Island. Could be a partly sunny afternoon with the showers mostly ending down south, but up to the north could be some more of a occasional light rain pattern there from, say, Juneau over to Yakutat, and then mixed precipitation for the northeastern North Gulf Coast, clearing out over Kodiak Island on up into Cook Inlet, and still chance of Actually, probably be some scattered snow showers over the Talkeetnas, northward here across the eastern interior, and with this trough up over the northwest, a little snow beginning to lighten up there south of the Kobuk Valley, but still area of snow there from the Kobuk Valley northwestward to the western Arctic coast. Warm front rains spreading over the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, and the next storm bringing possible gale force winds out to the western Aleutians. Lows for tonight, 5 to 10 below for the North Slope. Otherwise, teens warming into the lower to mid-20s over Bristol Bay. Upper 20s for the Pribilofs. Mid to upper 30s here for the central Aleutians, but falling to 30 degrees there at Shemya with snow showers. Near 30 also for Kodiak. Mid-20s Bristol Bay. And upper 30s to near 40 for the southeast coast. Highs tomorrow, 50 to 55 here across all of the Panhandle. Back to about 46 for Yakutat. Mid-30s south central Alaska to near 40 there along the outer coastline to Kodiak, near 40 for Bristol Bay, a little above 0, 5 to 10 above for the highs in the Arctic coast and North Slope. And looking at lows for Wednesday morning, about the same here for the southeast coast, upper 30s to maybe lower 40s, and we've got teens for the Copper River Basin area, up into the lower teens for the Tanana Valley, right around 10 degrees on up to the Brooks Range. Then Brooks Range northward, 5 to 10 below again, actually trending upward from tomorrow morning's lows. And for the highs in the afternoon, looking like this, again 5 to 10 for the Arctic coast, warming into the lower 30s here over the Tanana Valley, and lower to mid 30s all the way down to the Kenai Peninsula, and near 40, lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula. The warm spot again will be here over the southeast coast with highs in the lower to mid 50s, otherwise lower 40s up along the North Gulf Coast with, looks like even the Copper River Basin edging up above the freeze mark there with 34 at Gulkana and 33 forecast there at Northway with Eagle at 31, otherwise near freezing for the central Tanana Valley. And again, teens up along the Brooks Range.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Tomorrow morning's flying weather graphic looking like this. IFR here, just along and south of St. Matthew Island, onto the southeast here, catching the western, extreme western portion of the Alaska Peninsula here, back over to Nikolsky, and improving back out to the west, VFR breaking out over the western Aleutians, and Aries IFR here over the southwest interior, northern Bristol Bay zone there into the southern Kuskokwim possibly, and then another area up to the northwest there. It's a little more extensive, just about from the Koyukuk Valley back to the northwest, but VFR for the Seward Peninsula, IFR there, the southern Copper River Basin and the coastal mountains with marginal VFR extending northward across 40-mile country in the eastern Tanana Valley. And down into the Gulf of Alaska, Panhandle, not too bad to start with. There some marginal VFR over the northern areas and some VFR on down to the south. And for Tuesday afternoon, that improves further here with now off the coast, the VFR pushing off the coast there. Still some lingering areas of marginal VFR up to the north, but not too bad. IFR here, eastern side of the Kenai Peninsula on into western Prince William Sound, Passage Canal, and those areas down to possibly Seward. VFR, Kodiak Island up across the Cook Inlet area, but this area marginal VFR kind of pulling back to the west. Actually, this will be improving conditions tomorrow afternoon here over south central Alaska, but with that lingering IFR, and then Aries IFR out here to the west. And then for Wednesday morning, IFR from the northwest coast down across the Selawik Valley into the Kuskokwim Valley to the Alaska Range, and Aries IFR along the central and eastern Alaska Range as well as the 40-mile country and down along the eastern North Gulf Coast with marginal VFR back in across all of the Panhandle, and not too bad out here to the west again. Pretty good VFR, Alaska Peninsula, all the way out until you hit some marginal stuff towards Shemya. And for the afternoon, batch IFR up here over the northwest again from, say, around Tanana, Indian Mountain, back up there to the northwest and the North Tack Valley. Marginal VFR, North Slope, central western Arctic coast, VFR there for places like Dead Horse, Nuiqsut, maybe Nuiqsut, but definitely a little more likely for Kaktovik and Barter Island. And IFR into the northern Panhandle now with VFR, or with marginal becoming VFR down to the south. Narrow band of IFR hung up along the Coast Range. And then for passes for Anatovik, VFR, or starting out IFR, improving throughout the day, possibly to VFR. And Adigan starting out marginal, becoming VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR tomorrow, as well as rainy VFR, windy VFR. And for Isabel, we'll go marginal. Same forecast from Antasta, marginal VFR. And Tanita, marginal VFR becomes VFR as that moisture kind of pulls off and dissipates. And then for Portage, IFR, gradually becoming marginal VFR. Might take a little longer to go marginal there in the eastern entrance. And for Chilkoot and White, starting out maybe as low as IFR and then becoming possibly as good as VFR in the afternoon. Freezing levels here showing 2 to 8,000 feet here, actually across the southeast coast there, with the 8,000 feet just catching the Stewart-Hyder area. And out to the west, we've got 2 to 6,000 foot freezing levels here. That area kind of shifting eastward across the from the central Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula and the surface there north of the Pribilos, but then dropping back down towards Shemya and then hugging the coastline the rest of the way around, now over toward the eastern border of the Panhandle. And for icing, not too bad really tomorrow. We've got another surge coming up, but just may reach the southern areas by late tomorrow afternoon there across Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, icing free for the Panhandle. Areas of mixed icing here, especially the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Again, that area working westward, or actually working westward, and then will begin to dissipate in the afternoon. IFR, a couple of swaths out here over the western interior, and from the St. Lawrence Island area down across Macoriac into the Alaska Peninsula. And for the jet stream, trough that came southward here late last week and over the weekend, now swinging in to the west coast. Southeast flow around this building ridge of high pressure over western Canada. So we've got southeasterly 60 to 70 knots coming into the interior, and southwest, west-south 140 there coming into the Aleutians, and then 40 to 60 knots up through the Bering Strait in the western Arctic coast. And for 9,000 feet, looking something like this, westerlies for the most part, 25 to 35 knots there, at picking up 35 eastward here as it approaches Bristol Bay, then begins to diverge and diminish with 25 knots for Bristol Bay. Pretty light for Kodiak. Southeasterlies 10 to 15 to 25 there up over the northwest, and pretty strong winds along and off the southeast coast again here up to 55 knots, 30 to 40 knotters there in the eastern North Gulf Coast, and then 20 to 30 there across the eastern Alaska Range. And then for the 3,000 foot winds, much lighter through here, just 5 knots over the eastern interior, a narrow band of southerlies 20 to 30 knots here over the western interior areas, then falling back to the west, and 35 to 40 off the southeast coast. And out as far as turbulence goes, maybe some isolated moderate chop for the Alaska Peninsula and the Fox Islands, and a little more widespread here for the southeast coast, especially on the outer coastline. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Floating hundreds of miles from Earth, astronauts get a unique perspective of our planet. While they might recognize landmarks, space is the only place they can see the very edge of our planet's atmosphere.
From orbit, particularly looking at the horizon, did bring to mind how thin the atmosphere is. It's like an onion skin around this great big ball of the Earth.
This uppermost layer of Earth's atmosphere, the ionosphere, also overlaps with the very beginning of space. It's the job of NASA's new mission, GOLD, the Global Scale Observations of the Limmendisk Instrument, to study this region, a region that isn't just for astronauts to explore, but that affects humans every day down on the ground. For one thing, this layer of the upper atmosphere helps protect us from harmful radiation and energy emanating from the sun. But in our modern society, it does so much more. It affects the smartphone that sits in your pocket and the radio waves that guide our airplanes. The ionosphere is a crucial layer of the atmosphere through which our communications and GPS signals travel. And when this region changes, it impacts those communication signals. Changes can occur above this region from the sun's activity, also known as space weather. Changes can also occur below from Earth's weather, such as hurricanes and wind patterns. GOLD connects the dots between how space weather and Earth's weather shape the upper reaches of the atmosphere. But this region isn't easy to study. The ionosphere spans roughly 60 to 400 miles from Earth's surface, which is too high for aircraft and scientific balloons, and the lower regions are too low to easily study with satellites. What are attainable, however, are the swaths of red and green light shining out from the upper atmosphere. Formed when the sun's rays hit atmospheric molecules, this light, named airglow, comes from green and red bands of glowing gas. Some of the airglow is invisible to our eyes, shining in infrared and ultraviolet light, which can only be seen with scientific instrumentation. Taking advantage of our planet's natural glow is gold. The gold instrument, which is about the size of a mini-fridge, is hitching a ride on a commercial communication satellite, SES-14. The satellite's orbit lies 22,000 miles above Earth, where it can record images in ultraviolet light to monitor changes in airglow across the globe. These images give information on the temperature, density, and composition of particles in the upper atmosphere. Gold collects these observations faster than any mission has ever done before. It captures an image of Earth's entire disk every 30 minutes, allowing scientists to see how the upper atmosphere evolves throughout the day. Gold joins a host of missions studying the very nature of space, around Earth, the Sun, and planets. As NASA ventures farther and farther from home, knowing the nature of space itself is crucial for our journey to understand our solar system and beyond.
There's a new class of chemical compounds impacting the Earth's ozone layer and raising concerns among some scientists. But a new NASA analysis indicates stratospheric ozone could actually be impacted more by climate change and the continued release of already banned chemicals. The Earth's ozone hole is showing signs of recovery, decades after the landmark agreement called the Montreal Protocol that banned many chemical compounds harmful to the ozone layer.
So we know the Montreal Protocol was a huge success. This was signed in the late 1980s when scientists and policymakers from around the world gathered together to try to save the ozone layer.
The chemicals they regulated persist in the atmosphere for many decades. They thin the ozone layer and they create a seasonal hole over Antarctica. They basically take away part of our planet's natural sunscreen, and that increases the risk of skin cancer and damage to plants.
Scientists have projected the ozone hole could disappear almost completely by about 2075, but several factors could delay that recovery.
There are some industrial compounds that are not banned by the Montreal Protocol, but as they enter the atmosphere, they will also hurt the ozone layer.
But the unregulated compounds have a short lifespan in the atmosphere, unlike the chlorofluorocarbons that were originally regulated. So they have a short-lived impact on ozone, and we don't think they'll delay recovery by more than a few years.
We projected by 2050, more than half of the ozone-depleting compounds in the atmosphere will come from long-lived substances banned by the protocol.
Because these compounds stay in the air for such a long time, compared to the unregulated, short-lived compounds, they will have a disproportionate and lingering impact on ozone. So any non-compliance with the protocol can have significant consequences.
And the really big uncertainty in ozone layer recovery is climate change. There are many naturally produced ozone-depleting substances that are emitted by the oceans. And as the oceans continue to warm due to climate change, those emissions will increase, and that will further delay ozone recovery.
Scientists want to better understand how climate change will affect ozone recovery.
This is a hard problem. As a scientific community, we need to work on this major issue. We now have a powerful new tool to simulate atmosphere and its interaction with land and ocean to study this issue. And that's what we're going to do.
How can you see the atmosphere? The answer is blowing in the wind. Tiny particles known as aerosols are carried by the air around the globe. This visualization uses data from NASA satellites combined with our knowledge of physics and meteorology to track 3 aerosols: dust, smoke, and sea salt. Sea salt, shown here in blue, is picked up by winds passing over the ocean. As tropical storms and hurricanes form, the salt particles are concentrated into the spiraling shape we all recognize. With their movements, we can follow the formation of Hurricane Irma and see the dust from the Sahara, shown in tan, get washed out of the storm center by the rain. Advances in computing speed allow scientists to include more details of these physical processes in their simulations of how the aerosols interact with the storm systems. The increased resolution of the computer simulation is apparent in fine details like the hurricane bands spiraling counterclockwise. Computer simulations let us see how different processes fit together and evolve as a system. By using mathematical models to represent nature, we can separate the system into component parts and better understand the underlying physics of each. Today's research improves next year's weather forecasting ability. Hurricane Ophelia was very unusual. It headed northeast, pulling in Saharan dust and smoke from wildfires in Portugal, carrying both to Ireland and the UK. This aerosol interaction was very different from other storms of the season. As computing speed continues to increase, scientists will be able to bring more scientific details into the simulations, giving us a deeper understanding of our home planet.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis still showing ice advancing southwestward and southward. And you see more ice now in Bristol Bay than there was a couple of days ago. And really, it's forecast over the next 4 or 5 days to have a net growth, further growth, but it won't be anything drastic. And as far as Cook Inlet goes, a little milder temperatures next couple of days probably will result in gradual decrease of the ice. And for the coastal water forecast, easterly winds 15 to 20 knots along the coast there, pretty uniform pattern, 11 to 14 foot seas, north 20 northern Link Canal, and north 15 for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait southeast of 15. And coming up for Wednesday, southeast 20 to 25 knots here on the south coast and about 15 to 20 from the southeast or south-southeast on the north coast. Link Canal swinging around to the south, but only at 10 knots. Really light winds here for Stevens Passage and northwest 15 for Clarence Strait. Cook Inlet tomorrow, north of the Forelands, north at 10, just east at 10 for Prince William Sound with 2 foot seas. And then kick it up to small craft advisories here with east winds 20 knots and those seas at 12 to 13 feet all the way down to the Barren Islands. Small craft advisories also for Kachemak Bay, north 25 knots and 20 knots for Southern Cook Inlet. And for Wednesday, southwest, really light, 10 knots here for Cook Inlet and northwest 20, Kachemak Bay into the Barrens, northwest 15 for the western North Gulf Coast, and really laying down light variable winds here for the eastern area there on up into Prince William Sound. And for Kodiak Island, north to northwest tomorrow, 25 knots with seas as high as 11 feet there, but dropping off from Sitkinak, as you can see, to Castle Cape, north at 10. Then southwesterlies at 20 for the Alaska Peninsula with seas 6 to 8 feet, and southeast 15 for Bristol Bay. Outlook for Wednesday, we've got easterlies at 20 knots now for the Alaska Peninsula with seas running 5 to 8 feet, lighter northwest at 15 for Bristol Bay, turn westerly here for Shelikof Strait and areas southwest of Kodiak Island, and northwest just 15 to 7 foot seas along the eastern shore. And for the western Aleutians tomorrow, westerlies 20 to 25 knots, 10 foot seas. Not too bad wind-wise here for the Aleutians at all, northwest 15 to 20, and then that swings around to southwest at 20 for Unalaska Island with 7 to 11 foot seas. And then for Wednesday, small craft advisories for the winds, 25 knots here for the eastern Aleutians, northerlies 25 to 30 knots there for the central areas, and then swinging around to the south with that next system coming in, definitely small craft advisories there with 25 knots increasing throughout the afternoon. And the southwest coast here, southeasterlies at 10 to 15 knots, so pretty light, and obviously a trough axis right through here because they go north-northwest at 20 for St. Matthew Island and the Pribilos, 7 foot seas there, northeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island. And then for the Wednesday outlook, northeasterlies at 15 here from the southwest coast and Kuskokwim Bay on out across the Pribilofs, and light northeasterlies north of Nunivak Island, northwest 20 for St. Lawrence Island, south 20 for St. Matthew. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, east at 15, just 10 knots here for the central coast, north 10 knots, pick up to 20 knots here from Cape Beaufort all the way down to Wales. And then those winds turn westerly from Wales to Cape Thompson on Wednesday, and then north to northeast, 20 knots, turn easterly at 20 for the central coast, and then brisk wind advisories out for Wednesday for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast as they kick up to about 25 knots. And for tonight, this front gives the best chance of rain for the Panhandle out along the coast, on up to the north there, towards the White Pass area. Mixture of rain and snow along the coast, North Gulf Coast, with another area of snow coming across south central Alaska and the Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound overnight tonight and into early tomorrow. And then some breaks here over the west, and then more snow and snow showers with a trough there, and the winter weather advisories for the Kobuk Valley to Galena. Next system, not all that strong. Widespread area light rain with it, and warmer temperatures here into the Alaska Peninsula. Snow showers colder out west over the southwest Bering and the Aleutians. And for tomorrow, again, some winter weather advisories continue here over the Kobuk Valley, southward to the greater Galena area. And this area here trying to lift off the Arctic coast, but probably linger into the afternoon. Snow for the Yukon Delta, mixture of precipitation here over the southwest is just plain rain over Bristol Bay, and snow showers over the interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.